hello to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. I've just come on a Sunday drive today. I'm at home alone. Paul is overseas, visiting her sisters and caring for her mother. And sitting at home this morning, I looked out the window and it was a beautiful blue-skied autumn day, and I thought that I'd better get in the car and just go for a drive and just do something productive rather than get sucked into sitting at home on the couch and just watching television throughout the day. So I've come on a drive. I've just been to Sofala. I haven't been to Sofala for over 40 years. So I was a kid. I was a teenager when I first came to Sofala, and I remember going on a hunting trip with Con Bozanelos and Nick Karras, two friends of mine, and we drove through Sofala. And I remember back then that it absolutely captured my heart, captured my attention, with its beauty, with its captivating beauty and just uniqueness. And today I discovered that Sofala is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, gold towns, surviving gold towns in Australia, and it was established in 1851. So if anybody gets a chance to go for a drive to Mudgee, for example, you can take a detour. It's a 30-kilometre detour to get there and a 30-kilometre detour to get back onto the main road. But it's a wonderful place to go. And I guess from my perspective, it's the closest you can get to seeing an authentic old town here in Australia. A place with character, a place with old buildings and rust, a beautiful river, a pub, a general store. I went and mailed a couple of envelopes there, a couple of letters that I had. I couldn't find a post office here in Sydney on Sunday, but this place here was open, so I posted them from Sofala. How wonderful is that? But I'm on my way now to Mudgee, and I thought what I'd do is do a drive and chat like we normally do. It's either a walk and talk or a drive and chat. And I want to go through another book summary. It never ceases to amaze me how many book summaries are available for free on the internet. So I've come across a number of sites, and I've delivered over 1,300 vlogs in English and 60 or so in Greek. So I'll just continue vlogging as many book summaries as I can get my hands onto, because I love being a life learner and learning something new every single day. And I also like teaching and passing it on. So the mantra that I use in my own life and on Jim's 5am Club is live, learn and pass it on, because you enhance your learning by teaching it. If you want to be a great learner, then learn it with the aim of teaching it, and that way you can reinforce it. But even better than that, implement it and use it, because applied knowledge is power. Knowledge and wisdom on its own is a waste of space and energy. But if you take that and you package it and you apply it and leverage it and make a difference, then that is the objective of learning in the first place. So the book that I've decided to summarise now and talk about in Jim's 5am Club is entitled Leadership by Eddie Jones. Eddie Jones was an Australian rugby coach, and he also coached England as well. And he talks about leadership from a contemporary perspective, and it's interesting to see that some aspects of leadership have never changed over time, whereas other aspects have changed and improved things for the better. So Eddie Jones, in his book entitled Leadership, kicks off and says something which is quite profound and interesting, because I played rugby as a schoolboy. I played it when I was in primary school. I played rugby league in primary school and rugby in high school, and absolutely loved it. I love the camaraderie, I love the physicality, I love learning and developing. I love being part of a great team and contributing. And I understand that playing rugby or playing any sport is great for one's growth and development, but also coaching and leadership within a sporting context is another valuable add-on and byproduct of what we can gain from playing sport. So I've been fortunate to have had a number of great coaches. I went to a private school. I went to a rugby school called Newington College, a school that has boasted 2 Wallaby captains. So a pretty special school. And as I say, I learnt a lot from my rugby coaches. It was probably the first time in my life that I ever felt that I was an equal, where somebody spoke to me on an equal footing, where a coach would take you aside and talk to you and encourage you to do certain things and play a certain way. I remember feeling important, probably for the first time, because usually in a family context with uncles, aunts, relatives, it's more of a master-servant sort of relationship, or at least it used to be when I was growing up, where your parents told you what to do and you just did what they told you. Whereas when I played rugby at Newington, I had some wonderful coaches who were able to connect with me on a one-to-one, same level basis, which made me feel like an adult, I guess, for the first time. So Eddie Jones in his book says that no longer is a coach a dictator that stands on the sideline and shouts out instructions to the team, because when it gets to the point where you're shouting out and coaching from the sideline, it's too late. You're not going to make a difference. Because you haven't done the teamwork, or you haven't done the investment in the team to get the best out of the team, and then anything you're doing from the sideline is just a band-aid solution, which is not going to last, and you're going to turn your players into robots who are just listening for instructions rather than implementing and delivering on a pre-planned game plan, or doing things and showing initiative on the field. So what the author here is saying, what Eddie Jones is saying, is that coaching now is all about helping teams reach their potential, allowing them to decide as a team what their Monday schedule is going to be, for example. So it's all about working with the team, collaborating and cooperating with the team, so that it is more professional, and you're not taking the responsibility and all the accountability for what they do, but you share that responsibility and that accountability with your team. And I've seen it over the years. I've worked for some really special organisations, world-class organisations over my life, and I've seen some examples of great leaders, and I've also seen examples of leaders who weren't all that great. But the great leaders are the ones who work with the team, who understand the team's strengths and weaknesses, who work on a one-on-one basis with each member and don't delegate responsibility and accountability to others. They have a relationship with each of the players or with each of the team members, a special relationship, because each person is different. Each person has different skills, different gifts, different motivations, and different limits, as we said before. Not everybody can be a star performer all the time, and even the star performers need to be told to back off and to relax and to not burn out. So Eddie here is saying is that all of these things need to happen in an environment, a safe environment, where we work with each other and understand that we're all unworthy. Nobody has been to the future. Nobody has all the answers. But together we have slithers of reality, and we have things that work. We've brought things along through our career, things that we've learnt that other people may not have learnt, and it's important to be able to share those things and to be to cohabitate a particular environment, as opposed to being just a spectator, but to be a captain coach yourself. So each person reports to each other. I forget which organisation that I was in, but I remember, I think it was at Hudson, when somebody was saying, you know, who's the boss? And one of the fellows that I worked with, cleverly, and said, and it was very diplomatic, and he says that in this team here, you know, we all share the lead, we all report to each other, we all do what is necessary, rather than one person having the whole burden. Because at the end of the day, a manager only makes a little bit more than what the rest of his team makes. I remember in the old days there, there are some teams and there are some organisations where the employee or the team member is actually earning more than the team leader. It happens in sales organisations. I remember working at Hudson, for example, where one of the ladies there, I won't mention her name, but she was an absolutely fantastic recruitment agent, and as a professional, as a person who placed roles as a fee earner, she was making a lot of money in her commissions. So much so that she was probably earning as much, if not more, than the managing director. There are places that I work, as you know, and I know that construction workers earn more money than what some of the leaders earn, some of the site managers, because they get paid by the hour and they have the benefits of that hourly pay, and they get all the overtime and site allowances and a whole stack of other things and penalties, which sometimes may inflate their weekly pay packet, so that at the end of the year they're earning a lot more than what the site manager is earning. So what's the point that I'm trying to make? The point that I'm trying to make is that we all need, even in the family environment, every environment, we need to look out for each other. We need to be each other's eyes and ears in order, as we said before, to get the best out of a team environment, rather than to load all the pressure and all the responsibility onto one person just because they have a title of manager. The smartest managers, the smartest coaches are the ones who work with each other to get the best outcome, and are able to use the modern management techniques of empowerment, where we can work and help each other. So what else can we learn from this book? The fact that the author here says that great teams have a great performance relationship rather than great friendships. This is a very touchy and a very sensitive topic. In a high performance team, you need to have a performance relationship with the ones around you rather than friendships, because friendships will get in the way of performance. And we've learned that time and time again, because sometimes you need to make some tough decisions, and you mustn't let friendship get in the way of making the right decision for an organisation, for a team, because there's a big price to pay by dropping your guard and not doing the right thing by the team, by just trying to keep certain people in certain roles, and you know that they're square blocks in tiny round holes, and they just don't fit in, they just don't work properly, and they just create a lot of grief and impact the overall performance of the team. And you see it in rugby league, you see it in sport all the time. You can't get a team of a team of individual champions to work together. Some people are just think that they're more important and they're above the team. They're drama queens, they're divas. So sometimes you're better off just getting a group of people who can get on with each other and work together to do a lot better than having a few people who are really, really great but unsettle and create pain for the team. So the key message to come out of this, and this is a Christian message as well, that great teams have a great performance relationship rather than a friendship, rather than a run on friendships. And the key message, the real powerful key message, is that there's a thing called a servant relationship, where leaders are servants for the people that they manage. I remember working at IBM and having a manager then, a junior manager who just became a manager. His name was Michael Odom. And I used to work with him in the same team, and I remember getting upset that when he became a manager, saying, he's going to be a terrible manager, because as a senior professional he was very, very focused and he just did his own thing. But when he became a manager, he became a very, very good manager. And I remember him saying, my job as a manager is to help you look good, help you perform to your best capability, because when we as a team perform well together, we all look good. And I remember that. I'll never forget that moment when he said that, because that in itself was a magical moment for me. It was such a profound moment where for the first time I heard a person expressing servant leadership, where he says that I'm here to serve you. I'm here to make your life easier, better, more productive. If you need a portable PC to do your work better, let me know and I'll organise it for you. If you need to do this, or if you need to do that, or if you need something, let me know and I'll make it happen. If it makes you more productive, if it makes the team more productive, I will do whatever is in my power to done. And I remember how refreshing that was to know that you had a manager on your team who was there to serve you, to help you, rather than to serve his own selfish interests first. So the book here goes on to show that research indicates that teams that think through their problems themselves rather than being told what to do end up bonding together stronger and achieving higher outcomes. They're more likely to own and solve the problem, and the outcomes, as I said, and the performance will probably be much higher and much better. So as a coach, as a parent, as a leader, it's hard not to fill in the blanks and to give the answers and to lead in a meeting and do all the talking. But what the author here is saying, what Eddie Jones is saying, is that the great leaders are the ones who don't answer, don't give the answers, but let the team solve the problems themselves. And the job of the coach is to simply ask the right open-ended questions and then let the team come up with the answers. Because by the team coming up with the answers, they are taking ownership of that problem. And when you're taking ownership and accountability, then you're going to put your body on the line rather than look at blaming somebody else and saying it's not my job, it's not my fault. And as I say, a real powerful message from Eddie Jones. So it's all about a partnership. You know, we are each other's partners, we are each other's eyes and ears. And many years ago I worked in an organisation called Advantra, where I had a financial director known as Frank Cougans say that he wants everybody to be his clone. And in his thick Scottish accent, he would always say, I want you to be Frank Cougans when you're making all of your decisions. I want you to be my eyes and ears. I want you to think the thoughts that I would be thinking. I want you to understand what we're trying to achieve, and to be my mouthpiece, and to grow and develop your own style, but to do it in a way that represents the team and adds value to the organisation. So as Frank said, he wanted to delegate us responsibility and accountability to be able to get things done without having to run to him all the time, to basically ask the question, what would Frank say? What would Frank do? What would Frank recommend? What would Frank? How would Frank escalate this? Does Frank need to know? Does Frank need to get involved? So these basic questions empowered us to be in a position to do the right thing by the organisation. And as we said, if we did the right thing and we looked good, then Frank also looked good as well. So he would back us 100% of the way as well. And the other thing that the author says here, now I wasn't quite aware of this, but it's an important point to make. There are some people in a team, there are some people in our families, there are some people in our lives that are so good, that are so switched on, that they really don't need to be coached. And by trying to coach them will actually impair their performances. And Eddie Jones says that here that an example of such a player in the English team was Johnny Wilkinson. And all he needed was to be encouraged, not coached. He didn't need to be told what to do. He didn't need to have too much involvement with. All he needed was encouragement, because you knew as a coach that he was bloody good at what he did, and he just needed to be confident and to know that he was loved, and he would just go out and just play his heart out anyway, and to know that if he did something wrong, not to bring it up, but to let it slide, because that's what worked with him for his particular style. And as we said, Johnny Wilkinson, all he needed to do is he needed to know that the team cared for him and he belonged, and let him do his thing. So the other thing that the author talks about here, Eddie Jones, is that a team needs to have the right learning environment so that they can experiment, so that they can make mistakes and not feel as if they are going to be penalised for it. We need to, the goal is to learn, and to learn faster than the other teams. And that's one of the jobs that the coach needs to do, is to prepare, to maintain, to improve the environment so it's a learning environment, and that the team is able to practice an experiment and build those experiments in terms of pressure so that they can be performed and replicated under pressure. So they need to be pressure tested. It's very, very important, the things that we learn, to be pressure tested. I remember doing martial arts, being a martial artist years ago, and learning fighting techniques. And once you're told, and once you follow, you can easily follow the fighting technique, number 1 through to 30, I think there were. And you knew, 2 came after 1 and 5 came after 4. But it's only when the sensei, it's only when the master would have you in grading, and he would randomly throw out numbers, and you had to do the fighting technique under pressure, that you really knew that you knew it, because it would just be an automatic response as opposed to a response that you stopped and thought about it. So being able to work under constant pressure is one of those things that the coach can bring to a team. The other thing that Eddie Jones says is that a good coach has got to be really, really good at identifying and ironing out conflict, resolving it instantaneously and not letting it linger. Because conflict within a family, conflict within a team, if left to linger, if left to go on and on and on, just festers and becomes worse and worse, and it makes everybody feel uncomfortable, and it impacts everybody's performance, both consciously and subconsciously. It's important to understand that it has a tremendous impact. Any disunity, any negativity which seems to pop up and is not resolved is like a cancer, like a malignant cancer that will eat away at the team. So regardless of how good you were, regardless of how good the players are, if there are instances within the team that cause disharmony, it's going to impact that team and impact it badly. So the coach's job is to resolve it, to seek it out, to seek out the unexplored, and to weed out and to remove all of those exploded grenades that find their way into each family. Each family has its challenges. Each family, each group, each team has its problems. And I guess sooner or later, those problems will end up becoming other people's problems. The big thing that I've learned in my life is that other people's problems eventually end up becoming my problems. So don't wish other people to have problems. Don't encourage other people to get divorced. Don't encourage other people to play up on their partners. Try and be the steady hand. Try and help resolve those issues. Get people to clean up their act and to remove those negativities from their lives, because eventually, as human nature has it, things just get worse and worse. They escalate, they get bigger, they get more problematic, and they end up impacting everybody within that social orbit, be it children, parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, family, or in a corporate sense, peers, shareholders. Everybody gets impacted by the negativity that survives. So we need to cut it out, we need to blot it out and sort it out as quickly and as efficiently and effectively as we can. It's all about being effective, so it's important to use the right language here. Don't worry about being efficient, be effective. And if it puts a person's nose out of joint, then so be it. But you need to preserve the balance and harmony within the family and the team, more so than the ego of somebody else who is not doing the right thing and is not living by the spirit of that team and adding to its virtues and values. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club. As you can see, I'm on my way to Mudgee. Haven't been to Mudgee for years, but I might try and drop in to a winery or do something for about an hour or so, and then head back to Sydney. I find driving very therapeutic, very cathartic, especially when you're by yourself. And I found an opportunity to kill two birds with one stone, to do my vlogs and to drive kilometres and to relax. So a wonderful day, and I promise myself all the time to never waste a sunny day, to never waste a beautiful day by staying indoors and doing nothing, because this is relaxation, this is recreation. Driving, relaxing, having a chat, even though I'm chatting to the ether, it still feels as if I'm making a connection and I'm doing something one-on-one with people in my social circle, in my social orbit. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode, where you've been able to vicariously join me on this trip, where we're going on a drive to Mudgee on this beautiful autumn day. And we've just covered a beautiful book summary. The book is entitled Leadership by Eddie Jones, and I've learned a few new things. I love the concept of servant leadership. How many leaders have you ever worked for who practiced servant leadership and who weren't there as little Hitlers trying to further their own selfish needs at the expense of their team, rather than supporting them and being proud of their growth and development? I have had a number of great managers, and you know who you are, and I've still got a relationship with a lot of those people. I still talk about a lot of those people as well. And yet we've also had our fair share of duds in terms of leaders, and you'll never hear me mentioning their name or referring to them on my vlogs, because I've moved on from those days, and it doesn't matter anymore. Because when you look back over your life, eventually, sometimes the worst days in your life, sometimes the worst managers in your life end up being the best days of your life, because you make some important decisions and you learn some important lessons that we all need to learn at some point in time, lessons that we can pass on to others in the form of OPE, other people's experiences. And that's the gift of Jim's 5am Club, that we can tap into OPE, other people's experiences, and pass it on, because we've all